Welcome back. Joining me now is Laila Cunningham, Reform UK's London mayoral candidate. Lovely to see you this morning. Hang on a minute. Robert Jenrick's nicked your catchphrase. You told me last week at the Telegraph that you were the new sheriff in town. Now he's taken that phrase and adopted it as his own.
It's great. I mean, he's part of Reform, and that phrase, I used it because it's true, because Reform is the new sheriff in town. We're the only one to admit that Britain's broken, and we're the only one prepared to say it out loud and do what it takes.
Hang on, because you and I spoke, didn't we? You came on the Daily Tea, we spoke at the Telegraph, we did a big interview, and you said that you wouldn't welcome Robert Jenrick into the party. You said, and I quote, "I don't feel that the Conservatives have atoned for their sins. I'm actually quite sick and tired of them going up there and calling out all these problems that they caused and offering solutions." You also said that migrant hotels reached their peak under Robert Jenrick as immigration minister. Do you know what? You're not wrong. The peak occurred in September 2023. He was immigration minister from 2022 to December 2023.
And the assessment of the Tories hasn't changed. But what matters is when the Tories cling to that failure or whether Tories break away from it. And last week, when I did say that to you, he was defending a failed Tory government. Today, he's left it. And he eviscerated it, acknowledging, well, he did, and what really stuck with me was when he said that they are so complicit, they are so compromised that they no longer speak, they no longer can speak for the British people. And, Reform's a place for people who accept that the system failed, they were part of it, and they want to make a difference. It's not
but you can accept that you can accept that this. Hang on a minute, Laila. You can accept that the system's failed in the Conservative Party. The point is that Robert Jenrick served under 5, let's count them 5, Tory governments. Even when he's sacked by Boris Johnson, he goes back for more. And now he's saying that the problems that his governments that he served in are somebody else's fault. Why did he go back and serve under Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak if the Conservatives were doing so badly? I make this point because the public, the GB News audience, can sort of see this chicanery, right? They look at it and they go, hang on a minute, this guy's rewriting history. Why can't Nigel Farage see that?
Well, I think what Nigel Farage sees, and we all, we trust Nigel Farage's judgment, is him leaving, Jenrick leaving the Conservatives. It really signals that they're finished. And frankly, as you say, their record was horrific, and them being finished is good for the country. They broke Britain and they've lost the authority to even look us in the eye.
Hello, I'm Bev Turner. Now, it can feel like the money in our bank accounts at the moment does not keep up with the cost of living. And maybe there's a solution. I'm here today with the CEO of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. Cameron, what is TallyMoney?
Well, Bev, with TallyMoney, you get a current account and a debit card, but instead of pounds, you use milligrams of gold as your everyday money.
So why gold?
Gold traditionally is a great store of value. It has, on average, gone up at over 11% per annum for the last 25 years against the pound. It's tripled in value in the last decade. And in the last 2 years alone, it's increased by 50% against the pound. Banks' savings products just can't compete with that level of growth.
But this isn't just about gold. This is about a currency that you guys have created at TallyMoney. Explain it to me as though I'm an idiot.
So, look, people need to be able to hold their earnings and build their savings in a money that retains its value and remains in their legal control and remains theirs to access, away from government control.
Great. You had me at not exposed to government control.
You should feel safe and happy with your money. You should have peace of mind. The more money you see in your bank balance, and that's the type of thing we're trying to deliver, and give people choice in the type of money they get to use every day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you.
And try and fix it. And what matters by him leaving is that it strengthens our project, which is led by Nigel Farage, and it helps deliver a reform government. And that is unequivocally in the national interest of the country. It's not about me. It's not about whether I'm pleased or displeased. It's about what it represents. And it represents the final acknowledgement that the Conservative Party, not only do they no longer speak for the country, they can no longer speak for the country because they are so complicit. And that clarity, I think, is healthy for democracy and it's healthy for the party.
Well, so you're complicit until you decide you're not complicit. My argument is this. There's a contradiction at the heart of this premise. On one hand, you've got Nigel Farage and reformers like you saying the Tories failed in government. They failed to govern. And then in the next breath, you're saying, we're going to take on the Tories that failed to govern and failed in government to help us to govern because we don't know how to govern. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to take Tories who are complicit in broken Britain and then expect them to change and fix it for reform. You're basically getting the arsonists to put out the fire.
Well, I wouldn't say that's right. You know, it takes courage. It really does take courage to leave the Conservative Party and give the speech that he did. He didn't hedge. He didn't sugarcoat anything. I mean, he stood up and he eviscerated them. He said the truth about a party that's failed the country so abysmally.
Yes.
And that takes courage, you know, and to admit you're part of the failure, it takes even more courage. And to walk away from it publicly takes courage. Listen, we're not a refuge for career politicians or failed. We're a place for people who finally accept that the Tories failed and want to really help change it.
But the Tories accept that the Tories failed. If he had courage, you could argue he could have stayed in the Conservatives and tried to fix his own mess. Second of all, you and I both know, Laila, and you've been in the Tories and you defected, and we had an interview, and to be fair, you seem to be very, very consistent in your ideology, OK? The likes of Jenrick and indeed Zahawi have been on a journey, let's put it like that. Jenrick in the past had said, quotes, you only win elections by fighting them from the centre. He was very closely aligned with David Cameron. He signed a letter saying that Brexit would be a betrayal. He likes to pretend this didn't happen, but we know he was nicknamed Robert Jenrick because it was all over the place. Zahawi welcomed mass migration with open arms. He's had questions over his tax affairs. So I get the whole, let's get some very sensible people who have governed to instruct us how to govern. Are these two really the best people?
Politics isn't a permanent damnation. It's not a life sentence. Yes, I've been very strong on my convictions because I've always believed in them. But, you know, people can change their minds. People can change their convictions. It doesn't mean that they don't have them when they change them. You know, it does take some maturity to be able to change your mind. You don't want stubborn leaders.
I know, but it's juxtaposed against Farage, isn't it? Because to be fair to Nigel Farage, he's always believed what he's believed and he's always stood by it and he's fought these battles, right? You've taken a couple of Tories here that were never in the trenches with you guys. They weren't fighting. Yeah. Robert Jenrick wasn't fighting in the trenches over Brexit, OK? But I'm kind of making a deeper point, really. This is in the national interest, according to them both. But yet we also know that both of them were denied jobs. We know that Zahawi was repeatedly repeatedly begged, according to Badenoch, for a peerage, didn't get one. Jenrick loses out on the Tory leadership. The other thing that must be in the back of your mind as reformers, because you've got to work with these guys, is did Jenrick defect because he knew he couldn't win Newark as a Tory? He had to win as a reformer. Because that must be on your mind. I would be concerned if I was a reformer knowing this.
No, I think I would be concerned as a Conservative when you have the most popular frontline politician of your party that's defected and said that your party can no longer speak for the people because they're so complicit in the destruction of the country and walking away from a party that you once served. And the thing is, Camilla, so trust is earned, right? So when he first defected, I was, let's see what he's going to say in his speech. And what he said was exactly what we're all feeling. You know, he didn't mince his words. And that takes guts. That takes, he admitted they got things so catastrophically wrong. And, it's a patriot that wants to change it. And I think that's what the Conservative Party should be worried about, is that they have their best people leaving in January.
Okay. Let's move on to one London-related matter, because you are fighting Sadiq Khan. You want to take him on in 2028 and win the mayoralty from... that will be his 4th attempt, I think, at mayor, won't it? Because he's done 3 terms. Now, you've made a point, and I remember being at the press conference where you were launched and unveiled as the mayoral candidate, and you made a point about crime on the capital street never being higher, and knife crime is up, and violent crime is up. It does slightly debase your argument to read that homicides are down to a record low, doesn't it? So fewer homicides in London now than in New York, Berlin, Milan or Toronto, of all places.
Yes, so homicide, murder as we call it here, is the thinnest slice of the pie. Luckily, we don't have a high homicide rate. And when he says it's gone down, I mean, I think it's gone down by maybe 2 homicides a year. But you don't judge a city by how safe a city is by how many people die. You judge it by how many people are raped, robbed, mugged, robbed at knife point, mugged at knife point, raped at knife point, shoplifting. And all these are at a record high. You know, knife crime has gone up by over 60%. Rape is recorded every hour. We are living through a rape epidemic. And what's really sad is homicides obviously have a 95% investigation rate, because you can't ignore a murder. But every other crime has a 6% charge rate. That means 94% of victims don't even get a look in by the Met. And how can we be safe, Camilla? Nobody sees police. There's no police station. In a capital city of 9 million, we only have 2 counters that are open 24/7. He's halved stop and search. We all know that if you stop someone with a knife, you do stop knife crime.
Yeah,
it's just a fact. And people don't feel safe. And listen, this is not just rhetoric. As I said, I've experienced it before, as I said on your podcast. Everyone I know has. And I do find it shocking that only after I announced my candidacy did Sadiq Khan come out of hiding, and Sir Mark Riley. And you will notice they only spoke about the homicide rate. They didn't mention anything else, because nothing else paints a real picture.
Also, I do appreciate there's confusion around the statistics. Laila, we have to leave it there, but just one final very quick question. Why hasn't Zia Yusuf yet welcomed Robert Jenrick into the party on X?
I'm not sure, but we all went for dinner with Robert the day.
Did you?
We did.
Well, all of you? Was Zia there? Did they get on?
Very well. You know, they got. It's not about personal opinions, and it's not about personal feelings. It's about what's best for the country, and it's about Nigel recognises that Jenrick coming over is best for the country, and it's true, because if people recognise that the Conservative Party is dying, and it accelerates Nigel Farage being Prime Minister, then that is in the national interest, and that's all Zia's working for, and that's all I'm working for as well.
Laila Cunningham, thank you very, very much indeed for joining me this morning. Great to speak to you. Thank you.